I could steal oh, the Great Salt Lake.
You might hear a little Brazilian music in the background. That's my wife listening to a free live concert in Brazil right now.
Oh, nice. All right. Well, we're recording, so welcome to the Tooele Happy Hour. Yeah, we're in self-quarantine mode tonight. I'm at my place. Dave's at his. How you doing, Dave?
I'm living the dream, man.
Living the dream. All right. So we don't have a guest to speak about tonight, but we do want to reinforce supporting Bread Man J. Just look for Bread Man J on Facebook. Jump on there, see if there's any way that you can help, or if you need help, reach out to him. He can get some bread to you, and he's playing with some new flavors and spicy cheese bread and sourdough bread.
Did you finish that loaf or what?
Oh yeah. Well, I've got a kid. My kid killed it.
The kid finished the loaf for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good bread.
I'm starting 2 of my own loaves tonight, so.
Some sourdough, some of that death bread.
The Black Plague, yeah. That's the one.
No,
we'll see what happens. I hope they proof out nice and sustain me through the hard times, I suppose.
Yeah. So we don't have a guest tonight, so I've been kind of thinking, what can we chat about? And I don't know the exact, of course we've got to touch on the coronavirus, and for people, who aren't keeping up with the news, Utah cases, this is coming off of KSL.
So Jared, are you asked to wear a mask at work?
No. There's only like at the most 20 of us there at a time in a great big building.
Mm-hmm.
We're not within proximity of each other. It's easy enough for us to keep 6 foot distance or more. Like I can go half the day without seeing anybody doing my full job. So okay. We're not, I'm sure if we asked, they would provide one or something like that. And we have 0 cases at my work. Of course, in February and March, we had quite a few people that come up with a pretty severe cold type issue. So it may have already visited us. But nope, we're not asked to do any of that. You?
Yeah, there was a little information that was disseminated saying, hey, if you want to wear a mask, and we highly advise that you do, but it's not mandatory.
Okay, so you're not mandatory, but they're, that's kind of the same at my work. Most of us we're requested to keep distance, and then they've posted a placard on all the entrances to every room, and the placard says how many people can occupy that space, at any given time.
Right. Yeah, and now the tune is that it doesn't have to be an N95. It can just be a regular cloth mask. And there is a wonderful lady in Tooele who's making cloth masks for free, disseminating them out to locals.
Good.
If you haven't seen that on Facebook yet, it's a pretty popular thing now.
We'll try to get a link for her, put it on here.
Yeah, I actually know the lady. I worked with her a couple times in Tooele. So she's making her own little masks. She leaves them out on the porch, and people come and pick them up. They can donate money. It's been a pretty popular happening.
Well, let's try to get her on next week.
Yeah, I think we should.
Yeah, get her on, get her to talk about it, tell us, what she needs, and we can do it through Zoom also. The mask for the mask isn't so much to protect yourself. The mask is to protect those around you. Um,
Well, that's what the tune is right now. Tomorrow it could be
well,
protect yourself as best you can with what you got.
that's been the factual tune from the beginning. It was just, I think, because there was a fear of people hoarding such items, they put out, in my opinion, they put out fraudulent information saying the masks aren't going to help. And what it does, it stops your for lack of a better word, if you sneeze, if you cough, if you talk loud, if you spray while you chat,
Droplets.
it stops that from getting out into other people's space. So wearing of the mask, when you do that, you're protecting others. You're not doing that so much for yourself, but you're doing that to help others out. Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
get that later.
an N95 will protect you from around point three to, or I'm sorry, yes, yeah, 0.3 to 0.25 or something microns worth of droplet contaminations. And if you stay 6 feet away, I don't think you really have to worry about it too much, to be honest with you. It is truthfully the best way to prevent contamination. There's like a 2011 study on the social distancing factor of 6 feet, and everything that I read so far says 6 feet is the magic number. But I personally have always told people N95s are good. They're going to protect you. They're going to protect the person around you if you are contaminated. But they will protect you if you're around someone who's contaminated and you have a proper seal.
That's
So
the big thing is um I can't quote the numbers, but I listened, and in Ireland they did a bulk test, I guess, on just a bulk random test of people, and um of the, let's say they tested 100 people, and of that 40 people tested for coronavirus. But the important part is, of that 40, 20 of them were asymptomatic, which means that you can have it and not show any symptoms and not feel any symptoms.
yeah, maybe it has something to do with it. All right, if you get it, it's in your blood or is it in your lungs, one or the other.
It could just not be getting through. I've tried listening to shows on listening to the science on how viruses work, and it could be that maybe it's it's in a contagious form and it hasn't affected you yet, or it could be that for any other number of reasons it's not propagating in you in a manner that makes you sick, and it's doing its thing. But
No, the good news is if it doesn't affect you and you have it, at least you're building the antibodies for it, right? I mean,
you are, but at that
people
time
around
you can hurt other people. So that's why it's a good idea, if you're going to be in a bulk crowd, to I mean, even if you just cover your face with a handkerchief, that's still better than leaving it wide open. But anyways, I don't want to hover on Corona too long because it is no fun, but we'll talk about the what I'm getting from KSL on the Utah cases. So Utah cases, there are 2,396 confirmed cases and 17 deaths. The U.S., we have 532,940 cases, 20,591 deaths, and 31,904 recoveries. So that's a good sign that the recovery numbers still outnumber the deaths. It'd be terrible if it didn't. Global cases, 1,684,833. deaths 102,136, recoveries 375,499. And I think there's a pretty good gap between the deaths and recovered worldwide, and I think of that a lot of that has to do with countries like how South Korea dealt with it. They got it. What's that medicine they're saying to use for it?
Hydrochloroquine or something like
Yeah,
that.
something like that.
It's
And
an anti-malarial from the past. So it's an antiviral. It's
yeah, it's antiviral, that, and they add it up with zinc, and it does something on the cellular level that aids you, apparently. Apparently, it is the medicine that Great Britain used to conquer the tropics
back in Panama days.
back in days gone by.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, but
That Valtrex.
South Korea jumped on it, started administering it, they got real aggressive with treating it and finding it early and managing it. So they've got good numbers, and hopefully we can copy that a little bit. I don't know. The thing that concerns me with our nation is government is naturally slow to manage problems, but they're even worse when the government is bipolar, when every decision made has to be criticized by the other party, and it seems like their arguments always to try to get ahead of their rivals instead of, you know, doing what's right. And that wouldn't be an issue if there wasn't government. That's only an issue because the government lays down so many hurdles that the market has to jump through to find a solution. But it's enough of my soapbox. You got any soapbox?
Yeah, I'm sure I do. I've got plenty of them. I mean, I like my freedoms more than I guess most people might. I have an issue with the government and its overreach at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, we're not feeling a lot of that here. Did you hear what the South Dakota governor said?
That they're not going to impose any quarantines, or
Let's see if I can find this real quick.
was she liberal or conservative on the notion?
Well, I'll let you guess after I read what she said. Go ahead and keep entertaining.
So fair warning, you're probably going to have to test this audio because I am using an Omni mic and we can hear you. But let's see. I went to Costco today, and
Oh, how was that?
I'm starting to kind of get used to the process. That was my third experience in the line. So they line you up and they let 2 in and 2 out, or whatever comes in goes out. Whatever goes out comes in. And I don't know. I'm starting to get used to it, and I'm kind of liking the system. They do spray everything down, so any type of bacterias or viruses on your shopping cart, at least they take care of that.
That's good. They clean it as you walk out.
And I think these kind of changes are probably going to be permanent. I mean, I guess the plan is to let everyone go back to normal in a month, but the virus is still going to be there. People are still going to be contracting it. And I think our way of life is just going to be completely changed when it comes to social interaction.
I think so too. Well, and I myself would not call this a pandemic. I just wouldn't. I think it needs to reach a higher bar for me to call it one. But historically, pandemics have changed economic models. I mean, they've turned whole. Not I wouldn't go as far as saying the whole globe, but the Black Death changed the whole economic model of Europe when it tore through there. And let's remember, the Black Death on its first visit to England killed 1/3 of the population. That's
And you know what? I got to correct myself before we go further. I stated that an N95 will protect you from 0.25 microns. It will not. I think it's more like 2.5 microns. I
I'm glad
misclicked
you
my
corrected
decimal
that
point.
because I understood what you were saying in the first place.
Still, those decimal points can get you killed.
Well, the N95 means 95% protection, doesn't it?
Yeah, but from what would be what I would ask the person doing the testing?
Well, I think
So,
it's from ambient
from particulate matter.
sputum. Yeah.
But size counts when it comes to masks, and if you're anything below 3 microns, it's probably going to slip through a 95 if it's like a dry particulate matter. And keep in mind that viruses, they're usually riding on wet material matter. That's how they keep alive. They have to stay moist a little bit. So they're when you breathe, you actually breathe out particulate matter of some sort, and it's wet, moist, warm. So if you're staying 6 feet away, that's why it's so effective. Is A, it doesn't fly through the air like a baseball, and everything pretty much stops moving in your direction if you're 6 feet away from somebody. But I just wanted to clarify that it's not 0.25, it's more like 2.5 micron.
Yeah. Well, any coverage helps. Anything you can do really helps. So anyways, so her name is Governor Nome. Christy Nome. Not only, and I hope this doesn't offend her if she ever comes across this, not only is she the best looking governor I would dare say that this nation's ever had, but this lady is outstanding. So she goes on to say the state's public health laboratory in Pierre has confirmed the first presumptive positive case of coronavirus in South Dakota. The cases are travel related. While we wait for the CDC to conduct their confirmatory testing, the Department of Health staff is working to identify additional people who came in close contact with these individuals to decrease the spread of the illness. And did they cut off half it? Anyways, she went on to say things. So I'm going to have to paraphrase because I'm having a hard time finding her full statement. She went on to say things. She's not going to support a quarantine. She thinks that's an overreaction. She says she's going to advise but not enforce actions like that. And then she made a great statement, and I wish it was in front of me, but she said she took an oath to the Constitution, and part of that Constitution is giving the people the powers to make judgment calls, defend themselves, their lives, and their property. And that's not the government's place to step in on the small level and defend that, which I think she is a conservative. She is a Republican. Obviously, a Democrat would never say anything like that. They think but I would say she's more than a Republican. She's a night watchman state Republican. She's an old, classical Republican.
And I think probably South Dakota can get away with that a lot more than New York City.
Oh,
The density population. But I agree.
Well, here's the question. All these actions New York is taking, has it stopped it? Can you prove that it has stopped it?
Oh, I'm sure it's definitely slowing it down, but it doesn't mean it's going to go. The virus is not going away. It's not going to go anywhere. It I showed you that video from Brazil. Brazil is a hot country.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if it's still in Brazil right now and these
Well,
extreme heats, it's not going to go away.
no, Brazil hasn't seen anything yet because their winter is coming in about 8 months. And that's when I think you're going to see the southern hemisphere really get hit. Because that's when their cold and flu season hits. It's when cold and flu season hits is in the winter.
And if you want to talk about the violation of your freedoms, now in Brazil, what they're saying is, hey, look, if we see that your cell phones stepped out of your house, you're going to be charged.
I know.
Now they're tracking us with our own cell phones, which, I mean, I think we all saw that coming a mile away, right? I mean, the chip implant's kind of hard to hold someone down on, but nobody wants to forget their cell phone in a taxi cab or leave it at home when they go to work.
Yeah. There's a, yeah. Would locking people in their homes, would handicapping an economy, will those stop a virus? And I don't know. With the percent where 50% are asymptomatic, I think it's going to end up being kind of like chicken pox, where you're better off if you go through it, and then we just protect those that need to be protected.
Yeah, or you get a vaccine.
So then you enter into other scary territory. Do you force the vaccine? Do you make it so that a person can't shop unless they've had it? Do you push a vaccine out without the normal testing that you'd want to be done? I would want long-term testing on the vaccine.
As far as like letting people shop if they've had the vaccine or not, maybe that would be up to the storekeeper. I mean, I think it should be up to the individual business if they want whatever they. I mean, I don't. As an individual, I really don't even think it's the government's responsibility to enforce racial or sexual quotas or gender quotas, whatever they're called. You know, if a business wants all women staff, they get all women staff. If it wants an all male staff, it gets an all male staff. If it wants clientele that have coronavirus vaccines, that's what they want. That's what they want. So, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, but I mean, it ain't going to be up to me. It's going to be up to the government.
Yeah, and where's this vaccine going to come from? Is it going to come from the World Health Organization that not 3 months ago was telling us not to wear those masks because they don't work?
You know,
Did it come from the CDC who parroted that very phrase?
I'm hoping it's going to come from whichever business produces it most effectively and safely.
But
that's my hope.
What has a stranglehold on businesses that produce it?
Yeah. And that brings up the, you know what? We went to Costco today and we found paper towels, but we didn't find toilet paper.
Mm-hmm.
And we went to Target and I found hand sanitizer for $5.99 for a little tiny bottle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking to myself, you know, if I were to sell my hand sanitizer in my bathroom right now for $5.99, would I go to jail?
Yeah, that's another thing. Price gouging. They call it price gouging. And that's the wrong nomenclature to call it. That's incorrect. What it is incentivized salesmen or incentivized sales. You know,
Right.
Like when they had the tornadoes down in Texas or the hurricane or whatever, and people were delivering cases of water, but the water costs $5 a bottle. Well, take away that $5 a bottle, that guy's not driving from California with a truckload of it because there's no incentive for him to do that.
Right, and I've got some N95s underneath my bathroom sink. What incentive do I have to go put those on KSL right now? No, I probably don't. I'm just going to keep them myself there, although I probably won't use them.
Yeah, and then you've got people who shame people who do that, but articles like that don't appear, especially in hazardous situations. Right now, are you going to go to New York City?
No.
But what if you could make $1,000 per N95 mask?
Well, then, yeah, that would be a totally different story. I would say that.
So then New York,
the risk reward scenario, the ratio, it would definitely be in my favor to do that.
And it's also in New York City's favor because N95 masks show up in New York City.
Not if I'm going to go to jail because the police intercept me and
But
call me a gouger. Yeah.
Under this under the state, they don't allow you to do that because we elect people of lesser intelligence to be our rulers. I don't know why, but that's just how things work. If there was a natural disaster in California and say California needed toothpicks and you could go there and sell toothpicks for the price that you buy them, there's no incentive to get you there because that's just cost to you to get there. But if you can go there and cover your costs to get there and make money, there's incentive for you to get there. And also the higher prices stop people there from stockpiling because it adjusts their ability to buy.
I think the argument for the regulating and law enforcing is exactly that, the hoarding. People go there, they buy up all the supplies and then try to corner the market. But right now in Costco, I could only buy one roll or one package of paper towels. And I thought, okay, yeah, that's a fair rule. It's their rule, their store.
Yeah.
I'm a customer.
And that's fine. What if Costco had a rule that said you buy one at the regular price, but if you want to buy two, it's double. If you want to buy three, the next one's triple.
Mm-hmm.
They could regulate it like that. There's many ways they could regulate it where it's the price incentive that slows it down. But what that does is that brings goods in, especially in natural disasters. People don't go braving floodwaters and emergency situations to bring stuff. You've got to incentivize them to bring it. Yes, it'd be great if everyone out of the goodness of their heart loaded up all their pickup trucks with goods and hauled it to wherever it was needed. But that can't happen.
And this desire to utilize government to solve these issues. I mean, Trump just signed in laws on that gouging issue. Okay, so price gouging is now illegal because Trump passed some legislation. What is price gouging now? Everyone's going to ask themselves when they go sell a product. I mean, I don't know. He ran as a Republican. To me, he's still a Democrat. Best Democrat president we've ever had. Still.
My honest opinion is I don't see much of a difference between the two parties right now anyway. It's just their rhetoric's the only thing different. I mean, they've all done the same thing for the last 20 years as the guy before them did, as the guy before them. I think Democrat or Republican just means what they're going to say while they run. It's what they do is the same.
Well, each side is eroding freedom, it seems like. Just the left comes from one angle, the right comes from another angle, and kind of chips the stone away into a pyramid formation until we get to the top and there's nothing left to chip away.
Yeah.
So
2 football teams. That's all it is. 2 football franchises.
I really wish the Libertarian Party could field a good candidate that could compete, but it doesn't seem like it's going to happen this year either.
It's not just that, but I think all the independent and third parties, the Greens, the Libertarians, they need to pool their money and they need to say, we're going to host our own debates, because they can't get into debates. They can't get on the stage with them. And all of those third parties need to team up and say, hey, we'll fight against each other still, but we're going to shatter the barrier to entry.
Yeah, I don't even think that would do it, to be honest with you. I think it's so entrenched.
Yeah, I don't think it would either.
It's just a race to the top of the pyramid now. Yeah, from one angle or the other, your freedoms will be eroded every time. So,
A race to the bottom of the sewage pond, I think, is what it really is. It's sad, We talked to Chris Stewart the other day, a nice guy, and I like him, but I didn't see him fighting the good fight next to Thomas Massey when Massey was demanding an actual vote. That's just non-existent, because they're voting for something that might work, might not, but it's going to be terribly expensive. It's going to inflate our economy. It's going to up our taxes. It's going to bring in a lot of I don't, socialism isn't the word, but it's going to bring in a lot of authoritarianism. And Thomas Massey was the only one that was up there actually fighting against it for honest reasons, not like Pelosi and Schumer were. They were fighting against it so that they could get, I don't know, whatever pet project of theirs, more money. He was up there fighting that, hey, if we're going to do this, if you're going to put your name on this, put your name on it. And that impressed me. I've been impressed with him for the last 8 years, but that impressed me a lot more. That was a bold move.
Yeah, and I think it's also definitely not the majority feeling over there at this current moment.
Well, God, no, because they all get the cream off of that. They all get to suck the gooey center out of the Twinkie and then hand us the loaf of shortbread.
Stale bread. Well, I don't know. I've had some friends that with some pretty disparaging comments in regards to all this lack of desire for Americans to stand up against the quarantine. And then I've had friends on the other side that are petrified of getting the virus. And in the end, it comes down to the average number of Americans and their feelings. You say, what did you say? The politicians are not as smart as the people, and they're being lorded over by lesser intelligent politicians.
We rush to elect people that aren't as smart as us into office. They're all smarter than me.
But I might argue this:
the average person.
Maybe we're actually electing some average IQ of our population. That would be my argument.
Yeah,
we get what we deserve, is maybe the way the Greeks would put it.
Yeah, makes you wonder. But I want to shoot from the hip for a minute. So, what kind of economic changes do you see coming out of this? Because that's a big thought on my mind.
Well, I know economic changes as in like how much money we'll be making as individuals, or how much money the economy will be moving, or are you talking about inflation? I mean, there's a couple different angles you could take that question.
I'll start. I see us moving further towards a government command economy. I see a socialist model on services being expanded. Obviously, the money is going to be inflated. Our retirement's going to be further. Right now, our retirement is supposed to be something we pay into to survive, which is probably really bad for you and me, because if inflation hits, we'll be right in that sweet spot where new ideas haven't been tried to give us a retirement, but we won't be old enough now to where maybe pity won't be taken on us by the moves of government. So I think we might end up screwed by that, but I could obviously be totally wrong. But I see us moving. I'm really afraid that we're going to find ourselves in a modern depression with some extreme inflation stacked on top of that.
Right, and you're talking about okay. So when I look at the scenario, I see you talking about the fiat economy run by governments, which is a government-run program. You know, we say, hey, we're a free market society, we're capitalists, but in the end, your money still comes from a Federal Reserve, which is completely governed and lorded over. So when money is just another goddamn government program, what do you expect it to be?
I would argue the Federal Reserve has as much power over government as government has over it. The Federal Reserve is not a government organization. It is a private organization that controls the government.
Well, I think it's a psychological control. It's more like a Stockholm syndrome, because if the government wants to take back control, I could see it easily doing so. However, it doesn't. But
I think if the government tried to take back control, let's say a minority of a party, 50 people tried to take back control, I could honestly see 50 convertible Cadillacs driving through Dallas one morning, if you get my point.
No.
I could see 50 offed politicians.
Oh, okay. Well, and
In a heartbeat.
then you could also look at it the other way around. I mean, those people in the high powers of the Federal Reserve, they rely on the government to enforce their will. And you know, I mean, if I had control of the Marine Corps, I don't know if the Federal Reserve would be acting the same way right now that it is.
Would you have control of that in the end? Ultimately, would you have control of that? Because let's
define control, man. I mean,
let's talk about presidents who's gone up against national banks. You know, you have Jackson. They tried to off him twice.
He was successful, wasn't he?
He was successful. The only one
on his deathbed.
Yeah, but they tried to assassinate him twice. And then you got Lincoln, who went after the national bank, who went after a national bank. Actually, he didn't go after a national bank. He stopped a national bank from being formed. And there was a quote he said. He said, I've got a what's his exact phrase? I've got a Confederate army to my front and an army of bankers to my back, and I'm more afraid of what's behind me, I think was his quote.
It's a good quote.
So, and then, now, the argument on JFK, that's a looser argument, that bill that he put forward to put silver as a trading source in our economy. But a lot of people equate that to, equate those two things. That's jumping off on conspiracy theory there. But I don't know. But we're off on a tangent. What I see are, and I know you want to bolster Bitcoin, but that's not a feasible option in this circumstance right now. People can't go to Walmart and buy their food with Bitcoin right now.
Well, and whose fault is that, though?
I don't know.
I would say maybe Walmart is with the central bankers on that one. Maybe they don't.
I imagine they could be. But there is not one grocery store in our vicinity that we can utilize Bitcoin for.
No, and
Or
but as your scenario plays out, as the inflation hits, people will look for that solution. And I mean, I don't. It's not like it's going to militarily destroy the Federal Reserve. Instead, it's there on the sidelines waiting to be discovered by the layman and waiting for people to utilize it peacefully, voluntarily. And I truly think peacefully and voluntarily is the only way you can really kill that beast. People have to want.
oh,
Let me give you a scenario. Let me give you a scenario that happened to me this week. So we're doing some aid work, and I need to move money to Brazil. And everyone I know who has an American visa or who has traveled to America, PayPal works great. If that person that hasn't come to America or doesn't have a visa, PayPal doesn't work. It denies the transaction. So guess how we move it?
you can move it in Bitcoin. Yeah, you definitely can. But Bitcoin right now, as it stands, has a barrier to entry, which is the cost. Because there's a cost with it. So Bitcoin would work for middle class and above. And then
Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
accepted everywhere.
You can cut a cryptocurrency down to less than a penny.
Oh yeah,
You can do micropayments with these cryptocurrencies.
You sure can.
So, I mean, even people in Somalia have cell phones. So that is the advantage to our future, is that we all are going to be connected. It might be a centralized internet for now, but it won't always be.
And
Eventually,
I think cryptocurrency is the future. What be it Bitcoin or any of the others, or this new Trump coin that's coming out, or Federal Reserve coin they keep talking about.
which is a centralized system
We'll
that
be
they're
back.
trying to implement with cryptocurrency. It's not going to work.
Well, the thing I like about cryptocurrencies is they can't be inflated. We know the number that they're going to end up at. It's a set number. They could be traded across platforms, but one, there is a barrier to buying it. You've got to get on there. You've got to, most places aren't going to sell you, your extra $5 that you have after the paychecks left over to buy Bitcoin. You're not a fish in the pond.
Well, I will say this. There's more and more places creeping up every day that sells it. You can buy $5 worth of a cryptocurrency. The thing about it is that if I invent a language that is superior to English, then I have to get everyone to buy in and say, do you want to speak this language? Which means they have to learn it. It's a lot of effort.
Yeah. Benjamin Franklin failed. He tried doing that. He tried rewriting the English language and failed.
Well,
No one wants to do it.
there just wasn't a value to that person learning the new language, because English does what it does for them, and it works.
Mm-hmm. Well,
right now the dollar's working. Will it work in the future? It won't work as efficiently as this crypto stuff. I'll tell you that.
No, we've just got to get stores to start. I'm telling you, if Walmart and Target started accepting cryptocurrency, that'd change it overnight. Right there.
Yeah, it's just going to take one location, one big location like Amazon or Walmart or some airlines that's really popular to accept it. Eventually, it's going to happen. It's going to break. It's going to break through the wall.
If Amazon accepted it, that would tear down the banking system immediately.
But it will take you a full day of learning to probably be proficient enough to feel comfortable to use it out in the open marketplace. There's another barrier is, would you be willing to invest 24 hours of your life in learning for your freedom financially?
How much is the cost, or how much are the mistakes? How much do they cost?
My mistakes in particular cost Bitcoins. I mean, back in the day, I mean, they weren't worth as much as they are now, but there's
How much? What would a dollar amount?
uh you could lose everything. You could lose everything. Put
Yeah.
it that way. If you're not understanding how the security mechanisms work, you could lose everything.
Okay.
But I mean, if the banks decide that they don't want to distribute all your money out to you when you go to withdraw it at the teller's office, which actually happened to me at Wells Fargo recently. I tried to get some money out. It was a large sum of money. They're like, well, we have to make an appointment for you next week if you
Yeah.
want to take that out. So
Come
I
in.
had to take a check.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it happens.
and another fact is right now we are in the process of losing everything. It's just happening slow. I just $2.2 trillion is a scary number to add into our species. Really scary.
So our population is around 400 million people in America, correct? I would say that's a rough
Yeah, we can go rough.
standard.
That's if you include everyone.
Right. Young kids and old parents. And so you divide that by 400 million. What is that? That's a lot
Yeah.
per person.
I don't know. A regular calculator doesn't have enough room to put a trillion on it.
But our budget does.
Yeah. It's a crazy big number.
You know what you're going to spend your money on? The free check,
Precious metals probably.
precious metals.
Yeah. Brass, lead, copper.
You're going to buy one of those Trump coins?
I don't know. I might. I've got a little bit of silver that I've collected over the years, but I don't know.
Imagine going to the grocery store saying, hey, I want to spend this silver coin to buy this loaf of bread. Then you're going to have to actually measure it out and weight volume and slice it up.
How many managers would they have to call down just to figure out how much silver is worth before you even take some shears to it and shave a corner off or anything? Yeah, I don't see silver as I see gold and silver as a means to hold money, but not as a means to trade it, not until the most drastic situations happen.
Yeah, and by then it's like you're probably not trading in currency if it's a drastic situation. You're looking for food and water and
Precious
protection.
metals.
Yeah, the other precious metal group.
Hey, I'm telling you, I'll trade you this 25-22 rounds for that ear of corn. I'll trade you this 545 rounds for that loaf of bread.
And I don't even really want to fantasize about living in that kind of a world. It's not a thought process I really want to go through. It sounds arduous as hell.
Yes, it does.
Now I could see myself saying, okay, the dollar's inflating and inflating. I'll just pull out my cell phone and use this privatized money system that the government can't control to pay you for these resources. But
yeah, imagine after inflation how much a Bitcoin will cost.
Well,
because the Bitcoin climb has been a little bit from inflation, but mostly because the cryptocurrency has gained popularity. But if we inflate past that, imagine what it'll look like.
Usage for cryptocurrency is less than 0.1% of the world at this current moment.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even less than that. So it's not even a matter of the inflation of our currency. It's just a matter of adoption. And so far, I actually have had a coffee in a coffee shop that only accepts cryptocurrencies in Prague. That's all they won't take real money. Just cryptocurrencies, and I thought that was pretty interesting. And I've had customers tell me that they're trying to get yogurt cups for their shop, and they'll only take cryptocurrency in this Chinese location where they're going to come from. And I thought that was pretty interesting. So I mean, I think tomorrow's generation will probably see a lot more cryptocurrency action, and all this money from the people that are passing away from coronavirus. That money, you know, if there's going to be that many bodies hitting the floor, then their chances are they're older people. That money is going to flow into younger hands, and the younger generation is probably more apt to invest in cryptocurrencies that they can control and manipulate themselves rather than, say, stocks that, you know, you got to have like government oversight on. And man, I tell you, it's once you learn how to use something and you don't have to have government oversight on it. I mean, I could be a price gouger selling N95 masks for cryptocurrencies, and nobody would be able to do anything about it if they went that direction. But with the dollar, you know, you're using PayPal and bank accounts. Yeah, they're going to track you. They're going to find you. You are at their mercy. You're basically beholden and lorded by the government in the economy, or you can choose the other direction and go private. It's For me, it's a no-brainer. As soon as I figured it out, I wanted to learn all about it and how to do it, just to say, hey, when the time comes and people need to switch over to a privatized money versus this socialist system that we have now, that everyone thinks is capitalism. But I'm glad I did it, and I made a lot of mistakes. But even with all the mistakes that I've done, I've still definitely come out ahead, and I still think the adoption is early enough to come out ahead if you're willing to wait another 5 years. You know, throw $100 or $200 into it, learn how to use it, learn how to transfer it over into a paper wallet. You know, it doesn't hurt to educate yourself on this method of transferring wealth. And plus, you know, if you have to transfer all your wealth to someone and you don't want a death tax, this is the best way to do it. You know, think of all the resources that could be saved on that transaction alone when you pass away into the other world if we get a death tax. And it's coming, you know, sooner or later, we're going to have a pretty left-leaning leader that demands a huge death tax. And
Yeah.
to be honest with you, I mean, if you're going to have a huge debt, you kind of deserve a death tax, I think. Because if you're going to leave it, if you're going to leave the next generation in poverty, do you really deserve to move your money to someone else if you left them that huge debt?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a moral question that I've argued back and forth with a lot of conservatives. Is the death tax moral? I mean, it kind of is if you're looking at stiffing the next generation.
I'm agnostic on that. I do know that as one of the you know, many tax cattle for the United States, I have no control over what happens to me. It just, whether there's a death tax or not, and it seems like both sides keep moving further and further towards totalitarianism. I don't see either side moving towards pure socialist system. I see us continuing towards a fascist model. Both parties are completely fascist. There's too many handshakes, too many business fingers in government, and too many government fingers in business for it to not be called fascism.
But with the illusion of capitalism, people produce a lot more, and we do get a lot further when we have a lot more freedoms to our name.
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
A purely socialist system would be worse than a fascist system, and I know this is going to piss a few people off, but Imagine if like the old saying goes, imagine if governments were in control of your cell phones from the start. What would they look like today? They would still have to have a purse that had the battery in it, and it'd have a cable and a shoulder strap, because the government would never evolve past that. They would say, look, we gave you a thing, and this is the thing, and this is what it is.
And as soon as they invent a way for private markets to track your location, governments are going to jump on that train. Tell me they already haven't.
I was going to say, you think they're not?
We all had this vision of the mark of the beast or chip implants, but the fact is, the cell phone is the chip implant.
That was one of my stories I wanted to bring up. So on the Today Show, they had a quick portion, and we'll I don't know if we can play the whole thing, but we'll play a little bit.
Wisconsin offering employees microchips to replace ID badges. It's hosting a chip day party to implant the devices in the employees. And our guy Ron Mott is at the party. Hey, Ron.
So you get this little dinghy in your hand, and that's how you buy crap out of the vending machine.
Treat them like machines. Well, 3 Square Market is sticking it to their folks today using these needles. Now, let me show you first what this microchip looks like. It is about the size of a grain of basmati rice. So Patrick here is the CIO. Andy is a licensed body piercer. So let it rip. We're going to see this now.
Watch the boss. He's got to look away. I wish they'd have kept it focused on his face. That is a big needle. Right into the skin.
Needle is in. Chip is in. Not very much blood at all. Patrick, how'd that feel?
Better than get my wisdom teeth out.
Okay, and you're still conscious.
Yeah, great.
Melissa got chipped yesterday.
He's about to go down.
But you had to be talked into doing this. How long did it?
So this company in Wisconsin offers these chips that go in your hand. Probably how you clock into work, how you justify your hours, how things like that are coming. They really are.
Here we go.
And imagine the future when we don't even have cell phones, when we have a communication device that's intrinsic with our body at that time,
Well, I'll tell you, the process will be a lot smoother when they take your guns away. Then they won't have to utilize people to convince you to get the chip in.
Too bad I went on that boating trip and lost all mine. Dang it.
Yeah, well. That is definitely down the pipeline as well. I mean,
it is. It makes you wish there was a frontier left,
I definitely look for it everywhere I can.
Liberland could be that frontier. Obviously right now, getting to Liberland is a bit of a fight, but I would like to see ideas like that spread. And I'm telling you, that Eastern Europe, I think those guys suffered under the communists for long enough, and I think they're playing with ideas in pure capitalism, where they stay out of your business, they stay out of your wallet, and they stay out of your pockets.
They definitely like the idea. There's a large number of popular movements over there, but still, the majority of them, they're very gung-ho for organized government. And that's why ideas like private cities and Liberland and things like that, they still can't get a grasp into reality until something bigger backs them, other than an idea.
But what bigger thing is going to back them when that's a threat to that bigger thing?
Exactly. It's looking pretty glum for personal freedoms, and
the world over. We're gonna have to build a rocket and go to a new planet where we start our own spiral into dog shit.
Now, if you think about personal freedoms, and here's the thought process. I've heard a lot of people getting angry at Chinese people. How about that? Have you heard?
Yeah.
So here's the thought. I mean, I guess this would be the justification of saying, well, it's their fault for letting their government get out of control to the point where it is today because they're complacent peoples. So why shouldn't we be mad at them? So will people one day look at us and say, well, geez, you people had everything right in the palm of your hand. You had all the freedoms. You had the land tilled and plowed and cleared. You just had to weed the garden, bro.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Now look at this. We're a totalitarian world.
I would argue that while we drift further down, China tends to be getting a little bit more lenient. Of course, with the caveat that China couldn't get possibly any worse than it was, but it keeps getting more lenient every year while we get a little more stringent. And don't be mistaken, China is going to be the next world power.
Well, they got the numbers. I mean, there's just no way around it.
They've got the numbers. They've got the drive. They've got this new modern command economy where they're a mix between industrial capitalism and government command and control. They're running their country like it's a business, and we're soft, but they get a little gentler every year. So maybe in 30 years when they start stepping up to the plate, maybe they'll be a kinder place, a freer place.
Kind of like free-range chickens taste better.
What's that?
Like free-range chickens. They taste better, right?
Maybe.
But the next step isn't freedom. It's always the chicken nugget machine.
They taste the same, I think. But
do they?
I
like the flavor.
But I think they're they're never going to reach where we were. They would have to have a total teardown. You can only reach where we were after a revolutionary overthrow of your government, in which case a vacuum forms and a new government forms. And then
what that's going to look like.
Yeah.
It's roll the dice. It really is. The best solution would be no government. If you can find a species of human that can tolerate that kind of responsibility.
How do you get there? I mean, I'm 45 and I've been maybe a believer in being a free person for maybe 10 years now. Probably less than that. When before I thought I was free, I just wasn't. I mean, I'm not, but I misunderstood what being free was. What not having a gun pointed at me was, even though the gun's still pointed at me, now I recognize the gun's pointed at me.
Yeah, the invisible gun that nobody likes to talk about, but it's there. We all know it's there. We don't pay our taxes. You get thrown in jail.
Yeah, right now it's got a newspaper over it, but that gun is very there, very real, and don't pay your taxes. You meet the gun. Look sideways at one of the enforcement officers, you can meet the gun. And there's no protection for you and all the protections for the government. Well, yeah, we've got off track. I'm afraid.
All that over coronavirus, huh?
Yeah, I'm afraid this show might scare the hell out of a listener or two.
Yeah, I think Tooele's a big boy. They can pull up their big boy pants. They know more or less. They're very Second Amendment orientated, I think, for the majority of them. And freedom is important for people out here. That, at least I can say, is freedom is important for people in Tooele. And
yeah, they're
one of the things I like about this place.
Second Amendment, yeah. Very true. Very true. All right. Well, I think that's about a show. We got off tangent and got to griping about stuff.
That's what we do best, I guess.
Yeah. So let's talk to that lady that makes masks next week. And how do we get a hold of that old timer that's giving sandwiches out to truck drivers?
Now that one I haven't heard about.
I'll send you a link, and we may have to do an on-site recording with him.
Okay.
But yeah, well,
Sounds good.
All right, Dave.
Oh, you know what? I do want to actually plug one person here in Tooele that's offering some pretty cool services from home.
Okay.
So there's a guy named Steve, and he fixes computers.
Uh-huh.
Now, I had recently had an issue with an Apple computer where water spilt on it and fried up the board. And this guy, Steve, he took the computer in. He opened it up. It's a laptop, so it's a little bit more complicated. He opened it up, he cleaned it off, and he tried his best to get this thing to work. And he said, you know what? It's not going to work. The power won't come on. You're going to need a new board. So instead of just finding any board with a 30-day warranty, because he didn't want to provide a board with a 30-day warranty because, 30 days isn't going to be enough to make sure it's going to be okay. He was honest to me, and he said, you know what? This is not going to work out for your best interest. And he told me to go replace the computer with something else. And he didn't charge me for the service of the assessment, which if you've ever opened up a laptop and had to work inside of one of these things, these are complicated creatures and they take a lot of time to work with. So Steve, he's our local Tooele computer guy.
Okay.
I just want to plug Steve LeBlanc at 435-830-6827. If he can't fix it, he's going to let you know. Or if it's just not economically feasible for you to use his services, he'll let you know ahead of time. And I just, I was pretty impressed with what he did and the fact that he was honest with me.
Outstanding. So we got, if you got computer issues or technical stuff issues, get a hold of Steve. What was that last name again?
Steve LeBlanc.
LeBlanc?
He's on 411 all the time. Steve LeBlanc. Let me give you the phone number out one more time. 435-830-6827. And he's got a name for his company too. It looks like it's toolevits.com. So yeah, reach out to Steve if you got computer issues. He'll come to you.
Yep. Give Steve a call and join us next week. We're going to try to get a hold of the mask lady and the sandwich guy.
Sounds like a plan, man. Let's do it.
Talking to them. And I think for this foreseeable future, you'll probably see us coming across on Zoom. Just because, we do want to do our best to keep each other in the community safe. So, we may gripe about what they do and say, but we do agree that, keeping it safe, we don't want to become a statistic that's eating a hospital bed when that could be used for someone else. And we don't want to become that statistic because of our negligence.
Not too proud to follow the law sometimes.
No. I choose it. I'm not following the law. I'm following good sense.
That's the way I think about it too. For now. But still, like you said, the invisible gun is there.
The invisible gun is there. Not here yet. It's not here. We don't have any of that yet, thank God. But
I don't think we can travel to other states right now. I think there is an order on that, right?
Yeah. Well, it might depend on the state. I don't know if we could get into Wendover, but I definitely wouldn't try going to Vegas right now. I wouldn't want to cross any of the major arteries, but I don't know. I haven't been anywhere. I go to work and then I come home. But yeah.
Simple man.
I know. Very exciting.
All right, brother. Have a happy Easter tomorrow.
Yeah, you too. And, let's drink up and finish the night out right. And I will talk to you soon.
Cheers, mate.